Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Shauna. Let's get into this. Hey y'all, hope y'all doing well. Today the podcast is about memory. Now, as you know, we've been going over the periodic table for about 6 weeks now. We're going to be resuming back to it shortly. I just wanted to get some of these other, the creator wants me to get some of these other topics out before we resume, because the topic of the periodic table is extensive and it requires a lot of research, and because of what I'm doing, it'll make sense to kind of hold it off until we get to a certain point. Of course, you don't have to wait for me to study the table. You can do that on your own time, as I do. Now, I wanted to get into the memory. I actually have a few topics that I thought we went over, but we did not. We kind of scratched the surface, but we didn't really have and when I say scratch the surface, I mean it just came up in topic, but we haven't dedicated an actual segment to many things that, like I said, I thought we have already gone over. Now, when it comes to your memory, there are certain levels of memorizing, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. Of course, everything about your life is subjective, and then we have these shared experiences, right? So when you look up the word memory, it's defined as the faculty by which the mind stores and remembers information, something remembered from the past, which is called a recollection, or is defined as the process of taking in information from the world around us, processing it, storing it, and later recalling that information, sometimes many years later. Now, that was the psychological definition, where we take information, process it, store it, retain it, and retrieve it, right? That is the definition. Now, of course, as far as spirituality is concerned, your spirit has a memory, right? And some people come here with bits and pieces, not intact at all, but just some bits and pieces from their past lives, right? It's imprinted and engraved in their souls, and they remember certain things, and as time progresses, they begin to remember more and more. But what I want to kind of focus on is what we remember in our waking life and in our dreams, right? The things that resonate with us. So let's say you make associations with music or TV, with certain people, places, or things, right? Let's say you have the ability to read a book and regurgitate words that you've learned. Let's say you have the ability to remember how a certain thing made you feel, right? Or how it made you think. These are all different layers of the memory, but your spirit is carrying all of that, right? You get to deposit all of those energies in your spirit. So, I kind of just think being able to remember is one thing, but things happening around you causing you to remember is something different, right? Those are associations, and we've went into that, we covered it. You can Google it. We've discussed how I went to school for psychology, and this is kind of one of the first things you learn. But what I do remember is that there's always going to be something blocking your ability to intake information, right? Now, I don't believe that if you don't remember something, something's going on or you're like crazy. However, when you lack the ability to remember something, this can be an attack, whether it be a deliberate attack or it can be you attacking yourself. A lot of times we experience so much trauma and we suppress so much that it affects our ability to think straight and remember. And what tends to happen is it'll affect you and it'll impede on your ability to make proper decisions moving forward, right? So we want to be able to make sure that when we start to release and relax and rejuvenate, right, that we are doing this in a free space. And when I say free space, I mean in a space where we're comfortable with where we are emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I'm sorry for the noise in the background. So when you start to put things into perspective, your memory is like a compass. Your memory will help your spirit understand or not understand concepts, ideas, just overall energies. It's just kind of like being in an environment where you're uncomfortable, right? That energy stays with you once you experience it, right? And it's unfortunate that it's easier for us to remember the emotions and the feelings related to trauma versus those related to euphoria. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it happens because the energy is more dense. Until you begin to elevate and progress in your spirit, you'll start learning how to, release things that are not good for you. But what the whole focus is here is learning, right? Learning how to remember the things that are useful and learning how to release things that are not. I know that a lot of people, especially this day and age that we, live in, we have a really, really short, attention span. If you want to start reading, that'll be really important and useful for you to retain and regurgitate information because it's going to be very important for us to know how to use our brains on the fly, right? We want to be able to have a really good sense of ourselves without interruption. And that requires your memory, right? Our energy has a signature. Everyone has a signature as far as their energy is concerned. And if you don't remember anything, if you can't memorize anything, your vibration should be at the very forefront of your mind. So whatever it is that makes you you, unless this is something you need to work on and you don't like it, something you don't like, this is your prep, right? This is what you're using to embark on your journey in the world. This is the energy that you're going to be leaving behind. So it's really important to keep that and understand what it is and remember it. Now, of course, there's a spiritual component to this. The spirit world remembers that same energy, right? So, and of course, this is going to tie back to, your past life. What do you remember about yourself? What do you remember about your dreams? How do, the dreams that you've had affect you or show up in your waking life? What have you learned are those things applicable to who you, developed into at this very moment? Like, all of those things are little intricate details that will contribute to, what makes you who you are. But the other layer to that is understanding. And the only way you could understand is if you remember. You have to remember everything that you've experienced. Without your memory, your spirit is nothing. Your soul is nothing. So your memory is a really major part of who you are. Even if you want to shed some things and create new memories, your memory is how you identify with everything concerning you. So it's really important to remember that you come from something, right? We all come from these star systems, and we all have these different things that contribute to who we were, who we are, and who we're set to be, right? All of those things require memory muscle. All of those things require your efforts. All of those things require you to keep your memory intact. And like I said, reading books are one of the ways. I know people do like fish cod oil. I believe, and this is just what works for me, resting in water. I know there's tons of vegetables and fruits that, you can eat that enhance your memory and your different parts of your brain that are associated with the memory. But for me, it's rest and water. And when I tell you that your ability to tune in and tap into the things that are contributing to who you are as a whole, about 65 to 80% of that is memory based. Even when you have your ascension, even when you have to reflect and say, hey, what did I dream about last night? All of those things are coming out of your memory banks. Hence the reason when you're being attacked, your mind is one of the first things that they go for, right? Let's make you look crazy. So everything you quote unquote may know or may remember comes off or is written off as disregarded because she's crazy. He's crazy. They don't know what they're talking about, right? So I think to really get in to this spiritual journey, to really tap in and to really build your memory is a major part of it. Of course, your relationship with the creator is primal, but once you start looking at the things that are required, you need to stay sharp. Like your mental and emotional health is next to, the creator. Of course, your physical and your spiritual, they're intertwined, but your emotional and mental status definitely has to be in tip top. Okay, you have to really commit to constantly feeding your brain and keeping your brain sharp. And like I said, there's a lot of topics I thought we discussed. I actually thought we went over memory. And I didn't really even get too deep in it. I just kind of like scratched the surface. Because memory is something that's really subjective. It's different for all of us, right? So, yeah. But just know your memory is primal to your survival. Alright, I love y'all. Hope y'all drink y'all water and eat y'all fruit and vegetables and sipping on y'all tea because it's free. Hope y'all ready for them kids to go back to school. And I hope y'all got some good rest.